All right, so you want a 20-inch chainsaw. You got two classic options right here in front of me. One of them's a homeowner saw, one of them's a commercial saw. One of these saws is quite a bit lighter and quite a bit stronger than the other. And the price difference is only $90. Stick around and we're gonna find out which one's which. All right, first off, let's take a little tour around the exterior of these saws and go over some of the features. This is the 291. This is the commercial 261. The body of the 291 is made out of a polyplastic material. The body of the 261 is made out of a magnesium alloy material. And that includes the sprocket cover. This is metal, this is plastic. Then, if you want to look at the handle, this is a basic handle, just a rope straight through this plastic tee and a knot tied there. This is STIHL's very fancy, trademarked Elastostart handle that has a spring in the handle. And this is designed to save your hand from a snapback. This engine has a lot of compression, and if it were to bite and pull that handle out of your fingers, this little bit of engineering right here would save the tendons in your fingers. This saw has oil control. Right here at the bottom has a place for your orange steel screwdriver to go, and you can change the amount of bar oil flow going to your chain. This saw is preset and you can't change it. The 261 commercial has a decompression valve, and this is to relieve the pressure of the engine and make it easier to start the saw. This saw does not have it. So this is a big engine, it's got a lot of compression, it takes a very hard pull to get this engine to start. This decompression valve is just to make it a little easier out in the field after you've been cutting for 5 hours. Lastly, on this exterior view, this muffler versus this muffler, they're both aluminum, but this is an anodized aluminum. This golden muffler will last the life of this saw in a commercial application. This saw will last the life of a homeowner application, but in a commercial application, because there's plenty of commercial guys that buy this saw, this muffler will rust and blow out. As for the stats of these saws, your MS291 is a 55.5 cc saw that puts out 3.76 horsepower. STIHL says the weight of this power head without the bar and chain is 12.3 pounds. On this side, the MS261, this is a 50 cc engine, so it's a smaller engine, but it puts out 4 horsepower, 4.0. So that's a significant jump in horsepower. And the raw power head without the bar and chain is 10.8 pounds. But who's running these without a bar and chain? So let's get a weight measure of these saws with a bar and chain on them. All right, first, the 291. 14.87. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're out in the field and you're doing this all day long, just think about curling a 15-pound dumbbell in the gym for 5 hours. It would start to matter. And the MS261, 13.49. So it's about 1.5 pounds lighter, and you could feel it. It feels lighter in your hands. All right, next, let's take some covers off, and let's look at the guts of these saws. All right, so if you wanted to take the hood off of either of these saws and get to your air filter, your spark plug, 2 different fasteners. On the 261, it's this really fancy snap lock that just, with a 90-degree turn, you have all 3 fasteners in the open position, and then the hood pops off like that. On the 291, you have to make sure you have a Torx steel scrunch with you. And really, if you're out chainsawing, you got to have one of these with you, so you're equipped. You may or may not have a Torx head with you. As you can see here, it's a very similar air filter. This is a Fleece filter that sawdust will build up on the outside, and then this is clogged and you need a new one. When you replace this, you could replace it with this higher capacity Guild filter that comes standard on the 261, but this is standard equipment on your 261. While we got the hood off, let's just come in for a close-up and show you that the engines are totally different. You know, this is not a case of STIHL taking the exact same engine and just doing a couple tricks to it to make it perform a little more. Okay, now I also want to take off the sprocket cover and just show you some more differences in there. So on your MS261, your bar nuts, they're captured. You're not going to lose them in the field. Now let's take the cover off of the 291 and see what's different about it. All right, here you have your classic bar nuts. This is the situation I'm talking about where these roll into the woods, never to be found. But this is a plastic cover, so eventually this wears out and cracks. Okay, you look closely inside here. This is all plastic, and this is a drum sprocket. Over on this side, a lot more metal, and this is a rim sprocket. Pros and cons of rim sprocket versus drum sprocket. In the case of a rim sprocket, like is on this commercial MS261, changing your sprocket is as simple as changing this piece right here. This is something that you could have a couple different pitch chains, and you could interchange between bars and chains simply by changing out this rim. On the 291, this sprocket is connected to the drum. So this is a more expensive part to replace. When this wears out, you're looking at like $28. In this case, these are typically about $8 or $9, so it's much quicker and less expensive to change your sprocket out here. All right, the last thing I want to show you guys is the RPM of these saws. It's really hard to find the RPM data. I feel like it used to be published and it really no longer is. Most of the homeowner saws from STIHL are running at roughly 10,000 RPMs, and most of the commercial saws are running upward of that. Some publications say 12.5, some say up to 14,000 RPMs. Now that is the revolutions per minute without a bar and chain. So obviously putting the load of the bar and chain is going to take that down a little bit. But what I would like to do is put the covers on these and take these outside, put a tachometer on them, and get some real RPM numbers here in the shop. So follow me out to the shop. We're going to crank these things up. Dang, it got up there. It got high. That was the MS291, and we saw like 13,000. We are going to still put the bars and chains on them and see what that does to the RPM. So we have our decompression valve. That's going to make this saw a little easier to start. I'm relieving the pressure of the engine. And this saw is also M-tronic, which I didn't talk about very much, but it's going to make it a little easier to start. This is MS261. I saw 14,450, so 1,300 more RPM. Now we're going to do the same test, but we're going to put the bar and chain on them. We're going to see how that affects the RPM. I do want to make sure we have a similar amount of tension on them, because I don't want the load of the tension to hold them back, you know. I didn't make a big deal about this the first go around, but on the 291, I was pulling with all my might, and it was, you know, the compression was chunky. The 261, really like doing them side by side like this, you can really tell how much smoother it is, how much easier it is to pull the rope. This is the MS291 with a 20-inch bar and chain. Dang, it got up there. Unbelievable. That's fast. Okay, now we have the MS 261 with a 20-inch bar and chain. I press that in before cranking it, makes it easier to pull. Yeah, I saw 14,220 right there at the end. I'm very impressed and surprised that adding the bar and chain didn't affect the RPM all that much. Let's go back inside. All right, I know, I should have worn earmuffs. My ears are ringing. Pretty impressive results, you saw them. The 261 won the battle of RPM, if that wins the battle. And they both climbed really high, higher than I expected, higher than I could find in any kind of marketing data online. And the bar and chain didn't seem to affect the RPM a whole lot. I thought it was going to be like 1,000, maybe 2,000 RPM drop, but it wasn't. So for this video, I've tried to be very unbiased and be objective, just presenting the facts of these two saws. But let's get biased for a second, because I have an opinion. And my opinion is I love the 261. I think the 261 is like an heirloom saw is what I call it. This is a saw that's so durable, you're going to hand it down to your kids and your grandkids. So you've decided you're going to spend $600 to $800 and you're going to get a 20-inch chainsaw. You've decided you're going to go STIHL. You walk into a dealer, you see both these saws, $291, that's a bigger number. It's less money. I'm going to get a bigger number for less money. No. For $90, the 261 has a full magnesium body versus a plastic body. It has an upgraded muffler. It has a decompression valve. It has more horsepower. It's 1.5 pounds lighter. It has a better air filter. It has oil control. It has a lot of value that should double the price of this saw, but it's only just a little bit more. Go get yourself a 20-inch STIHL. You're going to be happy either way. You're going to be happiest in a 261. If you're looking for more information about chainsaws, small frame chainsaws, check out this video right here. We also have a bar and chain sprocket guide and really all kinds of STIHL stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you pick out your next chainsaw. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We try to drop a video every Tuesday and Friday, and you'll get that notification. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.